So last video I teased this project that I was working on with the KLX switches. Well, here it is. Called ThinKeys because the keys are thin, obviously, but it's supposed to fit into a ThinkPad with the Trackpoint and everything, and also split, so you can take it out and use it on your desk and have a split keyboard, and you can like tent it or tilt it or whatever. So after the last video I did some testing with the switches, and everything was basically working fine, so I went and ordered some more, except they actually ran out. Well, I ordered another 56 before they ran out of stock, which I was kind of surprised by, because like this is a really niche thing, like who's buying these? But anyway, so I have the 7 that I showed in the last video, and then I'm gonna get 56 more, so I'm gonna end up with 63 switches, which is not enough to fill up this whole layout. This is a lot of keys if you're someone who's into this like ergo stuff or whatever. But fortunately I don't have to populate all of these, and I won't be able to until they get back in stock. So yeah, as I'm showing here, you can get pretty minimal with this PCB. So basically I'm going to end up with essentially what is a periodic layout like that. It's going to take some adjusting because I've actually only ever used 100% or full-size keyboards, and obviously everything's going to be customizable with QMK and stuff, so it can actually get good mileage out of this minimal sort of layout. So yeah, it's gonna like this design is for the 20 and 30 series ThinkPads. That's just the initial version. I want to expand to other stuff afterwards. So obviously I want the Trackpoint because it's a ThinkPad, and as I already said, I want it to have the split, and it's ortholinear. I just felt like it made sense, sort of, because I want to, especially since I don't have a lot of experience with smaller keyboards, I wanted something with a bit more keys, and ortholinear is the way to do that. And also it makes it easier to adjust the amount of keys that you have like that. So I've actually, for the RGB, I'm still kind of debating whether I'm actually going to put it in, because basically here we have the schematic and the KeyCAD. So on the left side there's 6 columns, or 6 rows, and then 7 columns. And well, actually let me back up. So I'm designing for the Pro Micro for the microcontroller because it has a lot of compatible options that have like USB-C or Bluetooth, and I don't have to implement a lot of that stuff myself or worry about it. So there's I'm limited to 18 pins for data, and so the 6 rows and 7 columns are taking up 14 pins, and then the split connection is 2 pins because I'm using I2C, and the Trackpoint is another 2. So that goes up to, it was 13 pins for the matrix. So 13 plus 2 plus 2 is 17, and that leaves me 1 data pin available, which is enough for LED. But on the other side there is an additional column, and that means all of the data pins are taken up, which means no LED space. So there's a couple of things I can do about that. One is use what I was thinking about doing was I don't have to use I2C for the connection necessarily. I can use serial, and that frees up an extra pin that can be assigned to the LEDs. And so what I was thinking about doing was give the option between either I2C or RGB. And so what I can do is have a solder pad where you can or maybe even a switch where you can either solder these two pads together or don't, depending on which option you want. Or I could, well, I have the Trackpoint connections on both sides because I basically have space, and I like giving the option. Plus the side that's actually having the problem is the right side, and I feel like that's the side most people are going to want to put the track point on. So yeah, I'll show you the PCB progress. I still have quite a bit of work to do because I need to get a pair of calipers to measure the original keyboard, so I can actually design so I can actually meet the size of the original one. So the boundaries on the PCB aren't drawn yet, and also the track point, because I have to measure the cutouts for that too. And up here in the top right corner is the power button connection. So it'll be connected to a micro mouse switch, and then this is a slot for a DuPont wire, like a breadboard jumper wire, and that will be soldered to a pad on the motherboard, kind of like nitrocaster except way simpler, and the pad is pretty decently sized. So yeah, also I'm giving some updates in the chat on Matrix or Discord. Oh yeah, and other thing is the USB connection. So I pulled up the USB card. So the USB connection is going to be connected internally, and that's via either the Bluetooth adapter in the X230 or the smart card reader in the other models, and that's going to be via the ThinKeys adapters. There's some pictures of prototypes here in their Discord. ThinKeys being the company that sells these Express Card and NVMe adapters. Oh, and also another thing I forgot to say was the TRRS might have to be a different connector, just because the actual height tolerance on the... Okay, so the plan is to have one of these bridging the connection when the halves are put together, but the actual spacing is a little sketchy, just mainly because of the height of the little barrel in the middle, because there's not a lot of space vertically in that part of the keyboard. So I might have to use a different connector, unfortunately. I don't know what kind of connector exactly. I'm still gonna order the first round of PCBs with, or the first prototype with TRS, I think, just to make sure, because I think it's the best connector to use just because it's the industry standard, sort of. And also, I was thinking of moving the Pro Micro over and having a key over here in the corner on each side instead, because I was thinking of like supporting Elite C or some kind of more extended microcontroller, but I might just not care, because I mean, I don't know, I think people can probably just deal with it, and I think it's better to have the keys closer to the middle in general, because to reduce pinky usage. These are the resistors for the split connection, and this is some hardware for the Trackpoint stuff. Even though it's going to be connected down here, some of the hardware is up here, or as much as of the hardware as possible really is up here to save space down there. Also, I'm kind of having issues finding the mounting hardware for the little screw holes that are supposed to go through the laptop. I want to preserve those mounting threads or whatever, standoffs, whatever you call them. And also, I need a way to screw in the Trackpoint module, and it's kind of hard to search for standoffs that are actually because I want them to fit through the PCB in kind of like the same way as the original. Another thing is I found some alternative sources for Trackpoints that are not just buying a bunch of keyboards and cannibalizing them. People actually sell these standalone apparently, and they're, as you can see, they're probably going to be cheaper to buy it that way than just buying keyboards. The only problem is I'm going to have to design a separate way of connecting. That's true for any two different Trackpoint modules. They're going to have two different connections. Another thing is I'm not sure if the quality is really that good. There's also this other model. Apparently this is used by the Tex Shinobi keyboard, and someone on Reddit is actually running a group buy for these right now, or it's ending pretty soon. Now let's talk switches. So last video I showed off the PG 1425s, and those are the more readily available ones. But I showed this page with the these other switches. So there's the 13 or the 1232s. They have the key travel goes through the side of the PCB, so there's a really big hole, as you can see, where the switch actually goes through. And so these aren't going to be compatible because they're mutually exclusive with these other ones, because Other ones have the mounting pins close to the middle, where the big hole is gonna completely like overlap the mounting area. Now we have the 1442s. These are a little taller, and they have a different layout where they have an LED hole right in the middle. And I actually let's see, so I took this MX Alps Chalk X footprint, and I actually made a 1442 footprint and merged it on, and it works fine. Now, so there's next up we have the 1325s, and I didn't do anything with these because even though they are thinner, which could be helpful, their publicly available outline view is really bad because it misses a lot of important information, like the positioning of the mounting holes. Same deal really with the 1316. I actually did try to make a footprint with these, but some of the dimensions are just undefined, so I had to make a guess, and I'm not going to deal with that. Now I also did add a footprint for the 1353s. These are called, according to Kale, Chalk V2. Then they have a MX stem here. And all of these are going to be too tall for the actual ThinkPad really, but I guess I'm envisioning that people could use this actually as just a regular desktop keyboard. So I just added them in, because why not? And regarding keycaps, as I mentioned last time, these are the only caps. They're just this translucent plastic. So I'm thinking of making my own 3D printed ones to have like more color options and legends and more dimensions instead of just one U. So now if we go over to the PCB, and I'll show you the actual, here's a preview. So there's gonna be these little gaps where in the middle, because when they make the PCB, it's gonna be a square rectangle. Like, I'm paying for an area of a rectangle, and then there's gonna be these little sections that are just gonna be cut off and thrown away. So what I did was I made a few filler things, like, so I want to fill the gaps to make use of the area. So I made a few things, like these are screw thread testers. Like, so you stick a screw through the hole, and it's if it fits, then that's what the size is. And also, I wanted to have, like, I mean, just personally, I wanted to buy some of these precision rulers where they have holes in them, so you can get a good amount of precision in the marking. So I made a couple of those that are gonna fit over here. there's a freedom version and a, well, I guess a freedom side and a surrender side. Now for this big middle chunk, I decided the best thing to do was to get a head start on a product that I wasn't going to work on originally until after this, which is what I'm calling the UltraPad Mini. So the UltraPad is supposed to be a 5.5x6 keypad that slides out of the UltraBay slot, and so the UltraPad Mini would be something similar for the 2.5-inch SATA slot in the X220, X230. And I know it's a bit ridiculous, the premise of giving up your SATA slot for a little tiny 3x3 keypad, but I'm sort of imagining that it can just be a regular keypad, like external. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm planning to do with the extra space. Oh, and also another thing I'm not sure about yet is, so on the actual ThinkPad keyboard, there's the top area is raised a bit, and my design isn't accounting for that. It's just a flat PCB, but I'm planning to just do it this way for the first prototype and see how it goes. And then if I need to, I'll have to make a separate board that'll then attach to the main one. I'm also sort of thinking about the waterproofing. On the original keyboard, you had water would, if you spilled it on the keyboard, it would just spill off and drain down the hole. Of course, here there's a bunch of holes for mounting all the components. So I've sort of thought about maybe I could minimize these through-hole mounted stuff as much as possible and just use a bunch of surface mount stuff. But, well, I mean, that wouldn't do a whole lot because there's a bunch of holes for switches too, and you can't really get around through-hole mounting those. I guess you could heat shrink the board or put a little plate under it or something, I don't know. I might also think about adding a Trackpoint option a trackpad option in the future. I know we're all ThinkPad users and we like to dab on trackpads for how much they suck, but some people, I saw some people saying they would want a center mounted trackpad on the keyboard, so I'll look into that. But anyway, that's it for now. Let me know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe and smash that bell